viewers, and welcome to another episode of On the Farm, where we're vocal about everything local. I am Shakima Hanley, and in efforts to continue our importance of water in agriculture campaign for Agriculture Month of Awareness, we'll be speaking today with a representative from the Water Department and an extension officer from the Department of Agriculture as we dive more into what water is needed for in agriculture. But before we get into the discussion, we take a short break and be right back after this.
For each and every one of us, food tells a story. It starts with agriculture, and our actions impact its journey each step of the way. We have one planet and are part of one system. We must work together to build a better future. We need to reconnect with nature and work as one. Let's rewrite the story of food for a better, more sustainable world. Our actions are our future.
Welcome back, viewers. I have a representative from the Water Department, and I'm going to ask him to introduce himself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Clychawn Wilson. I am the head of water production at the Nevis Water Department.
Welcome, Mr. Wilson, to On the Farm. It's nice to have you.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit, what is the purpose of the Water Department?
Well, at the Water Department, we are responsible for providing potable water to the residents of Nevis. And we are also responsible for keeping all the chemical accounts of our water fed to each customer.
What are some of the services that are offered to farmers? We have to dive into farmers now because, this is an agriculture show.
Yeah.
So what are some of the services that the Water Department offer to our farmers?
Well, as I said before, we offer potable water for agricultural use. And we also offer smart irrigation practices and recommendations. We also offer reduced rates for farmers all over the country. And that's the main services for farmers as we have now.
Okay, let's start with regards to the meters. Do farmers have a separate meter as opposed to domestic?
Most farmers, they have the same meter for agricultural and domestic use, just that the rates are different.
Okay.
The water rates.
And what is the process that a farmer would have to go through? Let's say if a farm is different from where he lives, what process would he have to go through with the Water Department to get a meter to put on his farm?
Well, first thing, you have to go to the billing administration down in Charlestown, and you have to fill out a water form so you can get a connection. And they're going to give you a new meter for the particular site in which you are farming.
Okay. Do you have an example of the meter?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I have it right here. It's the same exact water meter that you get for a domestic. It's the same meter you'll get for agricultural use. All depends on the size, though. A different size means more water consumption, so the meter would be larger. That's the only difference.
Okay, you spoke about rates. What are the rates looking like?
Well, for the domestic use, as of a few years ago, we had to increase our water rates. So it's now for domestic $13 per thousand. But for farmers, the rate is $6.50 per 1,000 gallon.
Repeat that, please.
The water rates, as of a few years ago, they were increased.
Okay.
They previously were $10 for 1,000 gallon, but the new existing rate is $13 per 1,000 gallon for the domestic. For farmers, the rate is $6.50 for 1,000 gallons.
Okay.
All right, but that is up to a particular limit. If you are using more than 10,000 gallons of water, your rate is going to be higher, which is going to be $13. So once you use below 10,000 gallons of water, your rate is $6.50. Okay, once you go above 10,000, your rate is $13 per 1,000 gallons.
Okay. How can a farmer read his meter?
Okay, well, on the meter, if you look carefully, you have three red numbers, three red digits, and you have all the others in white. All right. In order for you to know how to read your meter, it starts in ones and it goes up to millions. So your first red digit is 1, your second is 10, your third is hundreds. So as you go, as the first digit moves, that's 1 gallon, 2 gallon, 3 gallon. When that makes a total revolution, it goes to the second digit, which is tens, which means 20, 30, 40. When that makes a second revolution, it goes to the hundreds, and it goes on to thousands. So you must always read your meter from the right side, go to the left. Ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, up to millions. And that's how you read your meter.
Okay. What about if a farmer, how can a farmer identify leakage?
Leakages?
Yes.
For farmers, it all depends on your main connection. Because most farmers today are using drip irrigation.
Yes.
So it's very hard for you to find leakages in a drip irrigation system because it's naturally built to leak short water. But you have to look at your connections, whereas you're going to find spots in your connection that are wet. You check for all wet areas that should not be wet.
Okay.
When it comes to your irrigation system. All right, and that's so you can pick up with it, whether you're straightforward, you're going good, or you have a leak. So you always look for wet areas within your connection systems.
Let's dive in a little bit on water conservation, especially for agricultural purposes.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that can be done for conserving your water as a farmer?
Well, most farmers know they are up to date with the conservation techniques. They have their shade houses. They have their drip irrigation. You know, I know some farmers have their automatic timers and solenoid valves on their farms, and I know some farmers also have backup rainwater supply for water harvesting.
Yes.
All right, but there's a little bit more that farmers can add to their practices while they're irrigating. For instance, sometimes you do not take the technology for granted.
Yes.
Even though you have it, you still have to monitor it. All right, for instance, for some farmers, I know there was a case one time where a farmer had a solenoid valve on his water supply, but his timer was not working properly. So he used to over irrigate a few times, you know. So stuff like that you have to keep in mind. You have to always recheck your equipment, your technologies to make sure that they're working fine and within the settings that you have them programmed to. All right? And then you have the rainwater harvesting. You can do what you call a hybrid system, whereas your farm will take water from your rainwater tanks at different times of the day, and they will shut off your water supply. You know, you can transform your system into a hybrid system. Okay. There's one other method, the matter of shading as a practice. We have it here in Nevis, but it can go a little bit further. We have what you call over-the-top shading, and you have the ground shading for the plants. Okay. There are other materials that farmers can use to even prevent the level of heat that comes out from the sun. I do not remember the material right now. I had it in mind, but I didn't remember. I'll have to get back to you and let you know. That is one method. The other method is what you call a more ancient method. It's over 2,000 years old, actually. The people in India, in Israel, Germany, all these far places, in very dry, arid areas, they used to use what you call clay pots. And they would stick the clay pot in the ground itself, fill it with water, and put their plants around the clay pot. What happens in that technique is the plant will draw water from the clay pot. The clay pot is naturally porous. All right? What that does, it saves your water in 10 times over, because you are basically restricting evaporation. All right? Whereas the drip irrigation, you are irrigating on the surface, and you are exposed to sun. So you can have some evaporation there, or even high levels. With the clay pot method of old, they never had that issue. All right, so that's a method I think that would work for a lot of backyard farmers on a small scale. And for commercialized systems, you can use the clay pipe method. Whereas you're going to be burying your clay pipes in the subsurface of your soil. You're gonna have water being installed into the pipes, and you're going to have your plants around the pipe itself. And by doing that, you're conserving a lot of water. You won't have to worry about, over irrigating. You're going to fill up the pipes one time, you go back 2 days after, and water is still there, and the plants are still thriving. And you basically eliminate the evaporation problem that we have with climate change.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Are there any recommendations you can give to our farmers from the water department end?
Well, from our end, I would just like to say to farmers, keep an eye on your irrigation system, please. For those who have the solenoid valves and the timers, you have to make sure you continuously look at them, make sure they're working properly. And for those farmers who may leave their system on for a period of time and leave, that's not really a good practice. You don't want to over irrigate. You're going to have issues like leaching, soil salinity is rising, creating swampy areas. You want to be able to maximize and utilize how much you irrigate so it benefits your crops and not damage your soil. Land management is very important when it comes to agriculture. So farmers, take care of your land as much as you take care of your crops.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wilson, for being on the farm, and we do appreciate what the water department is doing for our farmers, and we thank you for coming and sharing, educating our farmers as to what the water department is doing for them, because many of them may not be fully aware of what is happening at water department, much as less what their rates are. They know they can get an agriculture meter, but they don't know how to go through and get it, what their rates is considered, like even how to check their meter or check for leaks and stuff like that. So I hope that now they're more informed, they'll be able to practice good water management and water conservation and be more abreast with what's happening on their farm with regards to their water systems.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much as well. All right, bye.
Thank you.
Fresh local fruit and vegetables produced for our nourishment. Buy local, eat local.
Welcome back, viewers, and I have here with me a representative from the Department of Agriculture. I'm going to ask her to introduce herself.
Hello everyone, my name is Hydeia Tyson, an agronomist by profession, currently working at the Department of Agriculture in the Extension Division.
Welcome to On the Farm, your very first time on the farm, and we are happy to have you. All right, tell us, what is considered as over-irrigation?
Over-irrigation is considered as the artificial application of excess water to the land to assist in crop production.
What are some of the reasons why over-irrigation will cause adverse effects on crop production?
Firstly, I must mention, just like us humans, we need oxygen, so do the plants. When there is water logging in the bed caused by over-irrigation, this impacts the uptake of oxygen because there is competition. This increases the moisture of the soil over its field capacity. What does that mean? Field capacity means the amount of water that a soil can hold based on the type, the soil characteristics, and its micro and macro pores. This leads to, when there is inefficient uptake of oxygen, this weakens the roots and drown the roots of the plants. When there is drowning and weakening of the roots, this there is decrease in the uptake of nutrients into the soil, into the plants. There is reduction of nutrients. There's also leaching of nutrients such as nitrogen. This is also increases the spread of fungal diseases in the plants and also in the soil. Also, this, based on all of the water, this increases the weeds that will be accumulated in the fields. It is also mentioned, once there is, most farmers here in Nevis, they use pesticides. So once there is water logging in the soils and the soil cannot hold any more water, this water will seep to the ground, and this can cause groundwater contamination also. So it's always recommended to monitor how much water you apply to your soil for the crop production.
What is considered as the ideal amount of water a farmer should give to their plants or crops on a daily basis?
Well, this question is kind of tricky because, you know, some farmers, they have bigger lands based on the crops, the land size. Like if there's an acre or quarter acre, you wouldn't, if you have a 1 acre, you wouldn't apply the same amount of time that you have for a quarter acre. So for instance, if you have a quarter acre, maybe you can say like a half an hour or hour. Make sure the soil is just saturated, and that is like, should continue to monitor. So I give a recommendation. Maybe if you want to go in your farm, you can see how long it takes your soil to be saturated, and when it's already saturated, that's when you should turn off the irrigation process.
So this particular aspect would be in consideration of your type of soil as well?
The type of soil and the size of your farm, because you know we have different types of soil, if everybody knows. So the different types of soil have different types of macro and micro pores. So these pores, they also hold water based on the characteristics of the soil. So
okay, so you said 30 minutes to an hour. Is it 30 minutes to an hour in the morning and 30 minutes to an hour in the afternoon, or just 30 minutes to an hour for the entire day, and you could split it based on morning and afternoon?
Yeah, you have to have different intervals. So in the morning you can say maybe like an hour, And then in the evenings, maybe like an hour as well. But it will better to apply the water in the evening when the sun is down, so at least the moisture can stay longer in the soil.
Or very early in the morning as well?
Early in the morning,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk a bit about, well, that would tie into our next question, which is considered as proper irrigation management. So tell us a bit, what is proper irrigation management? Proper
irrigation management is just to ensure that your crop has sufficient water and the soil, to make sure that to prevent any of the problems that I talked about leaching of the nutrients. So once there is sufficient saturation of the soil, that's what you consider as proper irrigation to me.
Okay, are there any other specific examples that can be considered or done so that you can ensure that you're properly managing your irrigation system?
Well, it depends too on the type of crop you have, because the root zone, some roots of the plant, some are longer, some needs more water, some don't need, so as well it depends on the type of crop that you're planting.
Okay. Is there anything you want to tell your farmers more as regards to irrigation with their crops?
I would just like to say, make sure you monitor how you irrigate your plants, because over irrigation, it will reduce your yield and cause contaminations, not only into your soil, because once there's water runoff, all of the spores and the disease and the bacteria that is already in the water, they can also cause runoff and lead to contamination in the field of your neighbors or other neighboring farmers. So it's always important to monitor how much water your soil can hold, because every soil has different characteristics.
Just to add this, I know I asked you to wrap up and give them what you want to do, but do you think that timers would be ideal for farmers, for those who have irrigation system?
Yes, I do recommend timers, because most of the farmers, they have a second job. So
correct.
To not waste time is always better to have a timer, so the shutoff valve will just shut off like automatically. Because I had a farmer, he was telling me he didn't have irrigation on his farm, and he went to work one day, he thought he turned off the thing. When he came back, he had water everywhere on his farm.
Flooded,
so it's better to have timers, especially if you are like busy. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Ms. Tyson.
And thank you for having me.
No problem. We do appreciate all of the informative information that you would have bring forth to our farmers, and also to let them know, yes, water is important, but up to a certain extent, it can be detrimental to your crops.
Yes.
All right then. And there you have it, viewers, another episode of On the Farm, where we're vocal about everything local. And just to recap this episode, we spoke to Mr. Wilson, a representative from the Water Department, and also Ms. Tyson, an extension officer at the Department of Agriculture, where they shared their views on the importance of water in agriculture. And just to remind you, water is the driving force of all nature. Therefore, I'm encouraging you to conserve it, don't waste it, and don't abuse it. Until next time, I am Shakima Hanley.